Hello everyone, welcome to this quick tutorial. My name is Valo. Today I'll be showing you how I create my illustrations using just my Android phone. I recently bought a Vinsa digital drawing pad to add to my setup. It works perfectly fine for my Android phone and my laptop. So I can actually paint using my laptop, and I also paint using my phone. Well, I prefer to paint using my phone because the battery lasts longer, but the same amount of work I will do using my laptop. I've actually been doing digital art since around 2017. So yeah, that's over 7 years now. And don't worry if you're just starting out. It takes time to get comfortable. In this video, I'm not teaching you how to draw. I'll just show you how to use the app and available resources to bring your ideas to life. Let's get into it. Now let's begin. First of all, you have to start with your sketch. You have to create a sketch. You can either draw on paper if you don't know how to draw on a device yet. If you don't know how to draw digitally yet, you can draw on paper. Take a picture of it or scan it and upload it to your drawing app or your drawing software, whichever one you want to use. Once you have your sketch done, the next step is color blocking, or what I like to call flats. First, set your sketch layer to multiply, then create a new layer underneath it and use a hard round brush to fill in the main shapes of your drawing, just like you see me doing right here. The goal here is to create clean, solid areas of color, no gaps or messy edges. When that's done, lock the layer, then make new layers on top of them and clip them to your base color. That way you can paint freely, add shading or details without ever going outside the shapes you already blocked in. That's basically how I do my color blocking. Quick, clean and easy. Now that my layers are clipped, I am basically working within the color blocking layer, which means this is where I start separating different parts like the skin, clothes or hair into their own clipped layers. Think of the first color block as your boundary and these new clipped layers as smaller sections inside it. It keeps everything neat and easy to control, so I can paint details, shadows or highlights without worrying about going outside the main shape. Next up is the background. I personally love painting the background before the characters because it helps me set the tone and visualize the world they're in. Of course, you can paint the characters first, but I found that starting with the background gives me a better sense of color, mood, and lighting you get. If I paint the character first, I usually end up tweaking things later just to make them fit the scene, so it saves me time this way. In this illustration, our main character, the young girl, is facing off against a creature of darkness. It's a high action moment full of tension and energy. The setting is high up in the mountains, like right at the edge of a cliff. So for the background, I'm going with a dark purple sky, blending down into orange and yellow tones near the base. Kind of like a stormy sunset kind of feel. So the goal is to capture that dramatic, explosive mood while keeping the focus on the characters. You notice the ground where she stands, and the villain, this dark cloud-like figure floating above, casting shadows and trying to trap her. It's all about creating a scene that feels alive even before I start painting the characters. Well, next up, let's talk about the ground. For this scene, I'm actually going for a rocky texture, nothing too complicated or specific. There's really no fixed way to paint rocks, everyone has their own approach. Personally, I just start painting randomly, like laying down shapes, filling in grooves, and building up light and shadow as I go. I make few marks, then I look for patterns in them, kind of letting the texture reveal itself, that kind of thing. There's no direct way to actually do this. I mean, people give tutorials online and you can watch a lot of those. I watch a lot of tutorials, but I would say there's no laid down rule and regulation for how you go about this. You have to feel it your own way. Once the main form starts taking shape, then I add highlights along the edges of the rocks, especially since the light source is coming from behind. And then basically it's just like free form. It's just like free form painting, like trusting the process. So let's see how this turns out. Next up is our character's face. This is where we start painting in the contours, giving the face form and volume with color. Before even thinking about light and shadow, it's important to understand the geometry of the face. There are lots of tutorials online that can help with that, but for now I'm just focusing on giving her features some depth, building up the shapes, painting the mouth, and adjusting the sketch as I go. Sometimes you realize a part of the sketch doesn't feel right, and that's completely normal. The great thing about digital art is that you can always make changes. Just create a new layer and paint over it. It's clean, flexible, and forgiving. You can even erase lines you've created on like layers, erase lines, draw new ones. I mean, it's so flexible. That's one thing I love about digital art. Here I'm adding in her eyes, shaping her mouth and painting her teeth. Basically all what's going on around her face. Then I'm starting to lay down some soft shadows and give her face more life and dimension. That's basically what I'm doing at this stage. I'm building up the face slowly, step by step. Next up, I'm moving to her body and clothes. It's pretty much the same process as the face. Building contours, adding shadows and turning those flat colors into something with real volume. Here, I'm referencing the original design from my earlier illustrations to keep her outfit consistent, matching the same colors and overall look. So this stage is all about shaping the body, painting the folds and flow of the clothing, and keeping everything true to the original concept. Here, I'm adding a few extra elements I didn't include in the initial sketch. Things I remembered from the reference images, like her headgear and goggles. It's really simple. I just created a new layer and I painted right over what I already had. That's the beauty of digital art. You can always tweak, add or improve as new ideas come. So yeah, that's what I'm doing here. Painting her cape. Since the light in this scene is coming from above and slightly behind her, the underside of the cape will naturally be darker, while the top catches more light. It's just basic light logic. When light comes from above, the top surfaces get brighter and the lower areas fall into the shadow. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm keeping the lighting consistent with the scene. Hair and eyes. She's got two fluffy bundles of curls on both sides of her head, giving her that bold, expressive look. So here, I'm painting her eyes and trying to give them some personality and life. I also flip the canvas from time to time to make sure everything stays balanced and proportional. So it's a small step, but it really helps the whole piece come together. Next up, it's time to paint the big guy, the villain in the background. He takes up most of the upper frame, and even though he's behind the main character, he still needs enough detail to feel intentional. So his sheer size already makes him impossible to miss, but I still want him to look refined, not just shadow filling space. He's kind of like a smoke giant, dark, wispy and formless, so you see a lot of soft edges and flowing shapes instead of solid contours. He has hands, eyes and a mouth, but all of it blends into the smoky form. I actually wanted his eyes and mouth to glow from within, giving that eerie, terrifying kind of glow that villains often have. If you've seen Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, you remember Death. That was one of the scariest villains ever. That's my opinion though. I was inspired by that feeling, that same feeling. So, that kind of mix of calm menace and power, with his glowing red eyes, that kind of feeling. That I was trying to go for something like that, but I didn't reference his image directly, but I tried to capture that same intensity from my memory. Adapted it into my own design for this piece. Now we're basically done with the main rendering, and it's time for the final touches, highlights and color grading. I'm starting with the background. I'm using HSL balance, which is like hue, saturation and lightness. I'm using it to fine tune the overall mood. I'm adding a bit of saturation and adjusting the levels until the colors blend nicely with the rest of the scene. Moving on to the character. She's in the foreground, but since the scene itself is quite dark, she needs to blend into that lighting. So I'm adding a new layer on top and I'm clipping into her base layer and setting it to multiply mode so I can darken certain areas. I want her lower body to stay darker since it's closer to the ground, while her upper body catches more light. From there, I just play around with the shadows and highlights until everything feels balanced. That's pretty much the final polish, just adjusting light and color to make the whole piece come alive. This is an action scene and there's a lot happening, so to really capture that energy, I'm adding a bit of background noise like dust, smoke and particles, just to make sure the whole scene feels alive. I don't want the background to look static, I want it to feel like there's movement, tension and atmosphere. I'm also adding some flowing trails around the villain's neck to show that it's still part of the smoky, ethereal feel. He's a smoke giant after all, so his form and everything that's coming from him should feel like it's constantly shifting. And just for fun, I'm throwing in a few bats. It's a dark scene and a dark character, and bats just fits perfectly into that mood. After that, I'll start adding my highlights on the main character's body, subtle strokes where the light hits to make her pop out from the background. This really brings everything together, giving that final dramatic contrast that seals the whole painting. Now I'm painting her goggles, or more specifically, the glass on her goggles. For this, I'm using one of my favorite layer filters called Screen. I love using this filter layer whenever I'm painting anything glass related because of the way it interacts with the layers beneath. It gives that perfect see-through effect that makes the glass feel real. So after that, I'm bringing back my reference image, mainly to get a good look at the emblem on her chest so I can draw it accurately. Once that's done, I'm adding a bit of glitter and shine around the emblem just to make sure it stands out and catches attention. And that's pretty much for this illustration. I'm going to put in my logo, and here's the final piece. And that's it for this illustration. I really enjoyed working on this piece, and I hope you enjoyed watching the process as well. This video was actually made on request, so I'm not sure I'll be doing more tutorials like this often, but I might post more time-lapse videos from time to time. If you liked this, make sure to follow me on social media. You'll find more of my art, behind the scenes sketches and upcoming projects there. Thank you so much for watching.